Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this October 24th to 29th, 2024. On today's podcast, I'd like to talk about the effect of government policies when made from people working in the private sector versus made in the public sector. Um, for example, President Biden recently in the State Union address proposed this CHIP Act, where he gave things about giving money to companies to make new jobs and chips and everything. And I and a friend are thinking about this, and I looked at this document, and the executive summary was 2 inches thick. Good God, that's not executive summary. Executive summary is only supposed to be 2 type pages. And then what happens, I tried to fill out the form. Went through, I have a grants.gov account. I tried went to get the information from grants.gov to fill out the form. Guess what? When I tried to transfer the information from my grants.gov page over to the form, it didn't work because I didn't have Internet Explorer. Who uses Internet Explorer? Internet Explorer was phased out in the 90s. Most people use Firefox, Vivaldi, Chrome, Bing, and DuckDuckGo. They don't use Internet Explorer anymore. Who in the world wrote this website? It's like the original health.gov website, where it was Michigan and Republicans had to come in to fix it and make it work because they had people from the private sector who knew how to code. And this goes into policies. We need people from the private sector to come into government to look at policies and optimize these policies on government. Even like with electric cars, and we've seen if you have an electric car, there's only 3 places where you can charge your electric car: a Walmart on DeLand Avenue, at a Quick Trip on Spring Street, or you could drive up to IKEA in South Milwaukee. We've seen has 180,000 people. And after we have it as many electric cars as President Biden and other public sector people wants to get, we do not have enough power to power these cars in there. Even as people living in LA, during the summer, people cannot charge their electric cars every day because what happens to LA does not have enough power to run all the air conditioning. So certain days people are told not to charge electric cars so they can run air conditioning that day. Well, this year we have plenty of nuclear power plants, but we have a poor infrastructure system that hasn't been developed much since the 1970s. And with Microsoft coming into the scene to do a data center plant, they're going to need water from the lakefront. We don't have a water pipe developed to service them. That's what Foxconn found out. We don't have the infrastructure, even though they spend billions to replace the roads on the highways. But when they tried to transport glass from Corning over to Foxconn, they couldn't transport large segments of glass without being broken. Now, this is the effect of someone thinking on campus when you have public service employees who have a degree and they never worked in the public sector, private sector, and they go run for politics. They don't understand how people work. Many people who have businesses use Linux computers. Why? Because if you have an old computer, a Linux computer works good. I'm using an old Toshiba that I bought 12 years ago to run my server. Works great with Ubuntu Pro. If we have to run everything based upon Microsoft and some other specialized operating systems, oh good God, it's very expensive. You have to pay for all this antivirus. Like for me, it's $200 a year. I live on Social Security disability. I can't afford $200 a year. With Linux, you get security included with you don't have to pay anything. And what happens? You get security free up to 2032 with Ubuntu Pro. So, and the first 5 machines are free. Great deal. See, this is where we have to think about people in the public sector versus people in the private sector. When I started my career, I worked in the private sector quite a bit as a medical researcher, executive at Society for Computer Simulation, youngest executive age 30 in 1992. And when I went to get my MBA, I had years of the private sector behind me. So basically, I could apply that knowledge and not be completely thinking on campus, even when I went for my doctorate in management organizational behavior. Also, when you look behind me, you'll see like this. You'll see a toaster oven, a coffee pot. That's how many people who actually work in the private sector when they are elected to office actually have the office. They have a toaster oven, they have a microwave, coffee pot, a micro fridge, and they eat lunch in the office. They buy these little cans of ravioli or these TV dinners or something, and they make their own coffee. And they don't go into places paying $20 for lunch, wanting to be seen. They want, and that's why when you go in many Republican offices, you'll see this. You'll see this because basically they realize they're spending the taxpayers' money, and it's important that basically not to waste it. So when people moan about someone coming from the private sector, like us coming in to improve government operations and Robert F. Kennedy improved the FDA, I'm glad. I hope more people could. But the problem with Washington D.C. today, many people like myself can't come because it's too combative, it's too aggressive, too hostile. And for me though, I'm on disability and my medical insurance to keep me in this state would cost $30,000 a year. So any decision I make, I have to make sure that I keep my medical insurance. I like to do projects, like to work on certain projects, but how do I do it without affecting my medical insurance? Even recently, I had to call a state senator regarding my food share because when I published an article last year, I was paid $500 for it. I was docked so far $1,000 for publishing from my food share benefits. And luckily, I called the right person. He was able to get it done and fixed. But the problem is, how many people know how to do this? You shouldn't have to be basically part of the political insiders to know how to do this. So I'm not going to tell people to vote for, but I'm saying I prefer people in the private sector who are willing to come in government, improve government, like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Um, Sometimes the people running are not perfect. On both sides of the aisle, they're not perfect. But I've been frustrated with too many people from the public sector that went directly into politics and did not work in the private sector because they don't know how people work. And when Trump worked at McDonald's last week, I'm glad he did that because he is able to see how people actually work and see how specialized everyone's job is. It's not a case where one person can think of another person as a menial or lower class person because they work a certain type of job. Everyone's job is specialized nowadays. I'm glad Trump took the time to do that. I wish other people on both sides of the aisle would do that too. But as a maker, um, we need to rethink government policies because even for me to do projects, I used to buy a lot of stuff from Amazon. But then what happened was for some of the projects, when I found out chip was $8 a chip, and then I could go to AliExpress and buy 10 chips for $8 and basically have it sent me if I for free if I bought $10 over. I did it, and people say, "Well, you're buying from China." No, I'm buying from American companies. This is from an American company in China. They make them over there, and these are their overstocks. So, and I do buy from other places like DigiKey, Microchip, Texas Instruments, Electronics Express. But guys, your shipping kills me. If I put a $5 chip on you and you charge me $17 to send it by FedEx to me, please, I don't need it right away. I'm willing to wait. Can't you use a simple mail poster pouch and put it in and send it to me for $2? I mean, and in addition to the higher price on the chips, I mean, I understand you guys have inventory, but you got to work on policies. And this is why we need people from the private sector to come in because right now, like this CHIP Act, I tried to look at it, I tried to fill it out. I got frustrated. I tried for a week to fill this thing out, and I tried to call people and basically around this area that work with government grants and other stuff. They couldn't figure it out either. And I used to fill out government grants when I worked as a medical researcher. In those days, we had to fill out the PDF grants. So basically, we didn't have internet or electronic documents. So we had to print out this whole thing. It'd be like about 12 inches high, and these guys on hand trucks would have to come with FedEx and put all these proposals on, and they'd have to ship it by plane from Milwaukee to Washington D.C. And I remember basically on like for example, like a day like today, the last week of October, at 5 o'clock, these FedEx trucks would be parked outside our research park and research offices, ready to take this thing and ship it right to Mitchell Field right away and get this thing over so it gets Washington, D.C. by the 31st, by Halloween, before the November 1st deadline. And we do that in July and October. And the thing is, um, the complexity has become worse than that. We need to simplify. And also with windmills. I mean, when we have windmills on the Jersey Shore, and basically when you take a sounding a half mile from the windmills, it sounds like a pile driver. No wonder the whales are washing up on the beach. I mean, no one can work in that type of pile driving noise, even with ear protection, and live in there for a long period of time. We really need to think about this. We need to talk with people who don't live on campus, who actually work in the private sector and actually live among people. Well, let me know what you think. I prefer to have comments on the YouTube channel or basically on X, formerly Twitter, at Diana18 or Ideas with Diana. Thank you again for listening.